All right, it is now 12 o'clock and time for our next sessions. Welcome to the 7th Annual California Entrepreneurship Educators Conference, brought to you by the Lavin Entrepreneurship Center at San Diego State University in conjunction with our partners, the International Council for Small Business and the team at George Washington University. I want to thank our various sponsors for helping to make this session, this all possible. The Fowler College of Business at San Diego State, the Entrepreneurship Centers at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and the Entrepreneurship Center at Fresno State University, and our good friends in Wisconsin at BizStart. So I want to, and of course, the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centers, GCEC. You'll be hearing more about their upcoming conference later on in our sessions. So thank you for joining us. My name is Alex DeNoble. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship at San Diego State University and the executive director of our Lavin Entrepreneurship Center. In this session, I wanted our global audience to meet some very special people, some very special friends of mine, co-conspirators, if you will, in innovating highly experiential and impactful entrepreneurship programs. I have been to each of their campuses and have had a chance to observe firsthand the amazing work that they are doing. The importance of this is that we as an academic community continue to feed off of each other. We learn best practices from each other, and we take those ideas and we implement what makes sense for us in our programs. And that's how we all get better, because we're constantly learning from each other. And for this particular session, I think our conference participants are in for a real treat, because you're going to meet, from your perspective, some real pros in the field. And from my perspective, 3 of my closest friends in the field. To do this session with them is a true honor. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy all aspects of it. I've asked them to pick one program that they want to highlight for us that's particularly unique. And in particular, so we're going to start off with Rebecca White, and I'll introduce her in a second. But one of the things that I've observed is specialty graduate programs are being designed and developed in 1 year or less increments. And we're seeing schools in other programs move in that direction. And Rebecca and the folks at the University of Tampa have instituted what I think is a highly impactful program that I want you to hear about. So our first speaker is Dr. Rebecca White. Rebecca is the James W. Walter Distinguished Chair of Entrepreneurship at the University of Tampa. She is the executive director of the John P. Loth Entrepreneurship Center. She's widely recognized as a leader in entrepreneurship education. She is a USASB past president, a Longnecker Fellow, and a recipient of USASB's highest honor, the Max S. Wortman Lifetime Achievement Award. Rebecca, it's an absolute pleasure to have you as part of our program today, and we'd like to hear about your specialty program.
Thank you, Alex, and congratulations to you and Iman and your team and all the schools that have been involved in people in making this happen. I know you've done a great job, and I just noticed we're up to like 97 people and adding in this session. So it's really amazing. It's an amazing time. Okay, I know I've only got about 8 minutes, so I want to be pretty quick here. I'm going to share my screen a little bit. Alex mentioned that one of the programs that he was interested in and encouraged me to talk about is our Master of Science in Entrepreneurship. We launched this officially in 2016, so we've got about 4 years behind us, and we do 2 cohorts a year. So we have learned some things. A lot of things have worked. Some things haven't, as is always the case. So I'll try to share those if I have time. But I thought what might be of most interest would be giving you a chance to see how we developed it and what it entails. And then, you know, I can answer any questions or share other information as needed. So that's kind of the plan here. I'm going to do a share screen if I'm able to do that. It looks like, do I need to go to?
Rebecca, one second.
Can the team help her share screen?
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay.
We'll add on to your time, Rebecca, just like a soccer match.
Well, I hit share screen, but I think it's your screen that it wants to share. So that's where I'm running into a little bit of problem.
Okay.
I can go ahead and actually talk about it. I'll go ahead and pull it up. And
Rebecca, did you try now? Did you try hit share screen now?
okay, let me try again. There it is. Okay.
Okay, we have it. Fantastic.
Have it. Yeah, let me, all right, we'll get it up there. So basically, we took about 4 years to develop this. And, you know, I've developed a lot of programs over the years. And my original approach is typically to go out, look at what other schools are doing, use those, and knowing that there have been a lot of great award-winning programs over there. But we really wanted to, or I personally even wanted to do something a little bit different this time. And so did definitely look at a lot of programs, a lot of great ones out there, but wanted to build a program that was a unique fit for who we were at the University of Tampa. And we're a private school in Tampa, Florida, of about 10,000 students. And we have a kind of a unique situation because we have a pretty amazing space, which allows us, not right now, but when we're in session and on campus, to do some kind of unique things. So, and we also, I had also been pretty influenced by some models that I wanted to incorporate into the design. So we had multiple variations. It took us 4 years. We built our classes not by looking at other programs and saying, what should we include, but by doing basically a list of topics. We collected a lot of data from entrepreneurs, from experts in our field, and from research. We summarized all that, and then we did a clustering to create our courses. We built the program on 3 models. Effectuation model, which many of you are very familiar with, situated cognition, which some of you may be familiar with, comes from the education field, and on competency-based learning models. So a couple of the unique features, our application includes a video, so all students who apply have to do a video, and it's pretty standard application otherwise. There's a GPA requirement, and GMAT for students that don't have experience and that sort of thing. It's 32 hours, 32 coursework hours over 11.5 months. That for us equates to 8 4-hour courses. We built 4-hour courses to provide for a lot of experiential learning. It's a cohort format. We have a strong co-curricular aspect. And we have some unique class formats. Like the first course is over 2 weekends, intensive, all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. What's unique and special about that class is it builds community very quickly among our students. And it also allows for a lot of reflection and self-awareness and entrepreneurial mindset development. We have a couple of other unique class formats, which I'll talk about shortly. And we have 3 goals. We want to be transformative in 3 areas for our students. 1, we want them to develop self-awareness. We want them to build knowledge and skills, and we want them to expand their network, kind of back to the effectuation model of who you are, what you know, and who you know is going to dictate a lot of your entrepreneurial path. And I just thought I'd go over situated cognition just a little bit. That was developed back in the late 80s, actually. And I've got a reference down there if you want to take a look at it. It's from the education field, and there's 5 different components of experiential learning. Situated cognition simply suggests that you put people into an environment that's similar to what they're going to be practicing, what you're trying to teach. And so we do that through coursework, through a mentoring program, through assignments, through working with companies in our Spartan Incubator, which is a program for local companies in the community. And we also do it through our Spartan Accelerator program. Our students in the MS program are working through the Accelerator program while they're in school. Basically what that means is they have some dedicated space, support, and all the programming that goes into that. We've recently added a podcast feature, and I've shared some of that with many of you, but it's kind of one of our latest things that we're trying to provide experiential learning for our students. And it's actually, it's different than just using podcasts in class. We're actually creating our own and curating it, designed around what we want our students and what we believe someone in entrepreneurship education needs to hear and learn. And I just thought finally, from the competency-based side of this, we have 3 competencies that we've designed, that we've determined make up the backbone of what an entrepreneurship degree should include. This whole journey for me has been trying to, you know, in my own mind, what I've learned over the years is that students who are deeply engaged in an entrepreneurial pursuit learn more. So we designed the entire program around these 3: entrepreneurial mindset, opportunity recognition, and opportunity exploitation. And those are the 8 courses that we offer. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I know, I think I pretty much used up my time, Alex. I don't know if I have any more or not, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, it gives our audience a sense, and I hope people will be writing some questions down. I'd like the audience to hear from our 2 other speakers, and then we'll open up the panel discussion. I've got plenty of questions for you, but
all right.
Let's hear from Jeff. Tell us about what's happening at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. So by way of introduction, I'd like to introduce our audience to Dr. Jeff Hornsby. Jeff is the Henry Block Endowed Chair of Entrepreneurship at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. He is the Executive Director of the Rainier Institute for Entrepreneurship. He is a USASB Longnecker Fellow, and he's a highly accomplished researcher and educator in the field, and a wonderful friend of mine. So Jeff, the floor is yours. All right, I'm not hearing Jeff.
He's muted.
There you go.
Okay, there you go.
Simple mistake. Sorry. I'm going to also introduce Ben Williams, who is the Managing Director for Administration and Student Programs at the Rainier Institute, who is one of the major architects of the program we're going to talk about. Just a little overview. A year ago, the Sexton Family Foundation here in Kansas City came to us and said, we want to help underserved entrepreneurs in the Kansas City area. They're a successful entrepreneurial family, and they said, we will give you some money this year for a pilot, and then we will, if we like what you're doing, then we'll fully fund it next year. But using that as leverage, we start looking at our programs and say, how can we already serve entrepreneurs and students in Kansas City who want to be entrepreneurs, but how do we leverage what we already do with our partners at the university, mainly the UMKC Innovation Center run by Maria Myers and her team, and offer something that could be community facing, but also impact our students. So this year we rolled the program out. We're recruiting students to participate in our pilot for the next year. And what really excites me is it really shows the best of what our Rainier Institute has to offer. So I'm going to turn it over to Ben Williams. Ben has a JD from the University of Connecticut, an MBA from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. He also oversees our Enactus team, which came in 4th in the nation last year, and we're proud of that. So Ben, share your screen and take it away.
Sure. Let me give this a shot. All right. Is that working for everybody? All right. Well, thanks, Jeff, and thanks for having me here. So as Jeff said, the first thing we did with this program was to look at and sort of categorize the goals of the program. And that was number one, to serve entrepreneurs from underserved communities. And then secondarily, providing unique opportunities for our students. And then finally, providing opportunities for our students to engage with the community. So it became really important for us to go out there and start talking to everybody and figuring out what the needs in the community were. And quickly, we kind of arrived at the fact that there were a lot of organizations around Kansas City that provided support for entrepreneurs, but so few of them really had training in how to do that effectively. So working with our Small Business Development Center, we kind of figured out that was a real need here in Kansas City, and that needed to be part of the program we built in order to show the scalable impact that we were looking for. So what we ended up building was a 3-step program to take place over the course of a year. So there's a fall program to train students to become business consultants and support entrepreneurs. There's a spring course that provides students with the experience of running their own venture and working with external clients in an autonomous environment. And then a summer internship where we can take those trained students and place them with the entrepreneurial support organizations out in the community. So for students, they're learning, they're experiencing, and then ultimately supporting the community, while at the same time, the entrepreneurs themselves are learning, developing their business, and then hopefully growing that business. So that fall program actually kind of looks like it's actually got 2 parts. So there's the program that's run by the Innovation Center that Jeff mentioned. There's a program called Growth 360 that involves providing these ventures with a proven program. They get individual business coaches for each of the ventures. They get access to Growth Wheel that some of you may be familiar with. It's an online platform for entrepreneurs. And then what we think we can add to this is some student support. On the block school side, our business school, we're gonna train 20 students. These students are gonna get the training itself. They're gonna get access to these ventures. They're gonna get a very unique experience. And the Missouri Small Business Development Center has actually agreed to provide a certificate in business coaching to each of the students that complete this course. So working together, this kind of looks like this over a 16-week period. The Growth 360 program is only 10 weeks. So we have some time to work with the students, and then when the Growth 360 program starts, our students will have a little bit of class time, but they'll also have the opportunity to shadow trained professional business coaches over at the SBDC, and then provide some direct support to ventures. So they're sort of experiencing the whole process and getting to see people that are trained and professional and experienced doing this themselves to really understand how to be an effective business coach. So what they're getting, the students are getting, they're trained in business consulting, they're getting experience with these real ventures, they're getting mentorship from the trained business coaches, they're getting the certificate in business coaching, and of course the 3 credit hours. Well, at the same time, these ventures are getting a program to improve their own individual entrepreneurial skills, but they're also getting support to build their business and accesses to resources for the future. So that all takes place in the fall, and we're hoping for 20 students that will start in the fall, along with up to 25 ventures. That 25 is sort of the cap, so we'll probably be closer to 20 ventures. So probably 20 students and 20 ventures. From there, once the fall is done, we currently have a course called the Entrepreneurial Experience. This is geared towards students that haven't started their own business or don't yet have their own idea. And the idea is the goal is to give them the sense of being an entrepreneur without them having to go through and pick an idea to run with. So we pair students up with external clients, small businesses and startups that are working on something already, and they have one of these projects that are sort of sitting on the shelf. So they take that project, they give it to the students, and the students work in autonomous teams to go implement that project or do more work or come up with a recommendation for the client. So we think going forward, there's an opportunity to select these projects from the same pool of Growth 360 ventures that we worked with in the fall. We also have a really big mentor pool at the Rainier Institute. We have over 100 mentors, and we use those mentors to place with the venture, with our student teams. And so they get that experience of working with a mentor, and that mentor can also help implement a better project. And so we want to incentivize students that went to that fall program that are trained and certified business coaches to then join this experiential course, because they can be sort of leaders within the teams that we can embed with these teams, but they're also going to get further experience working on their own in autonomous projects where they make the decisions and they're not necessarily shadowing someone else, they're doing it on their own. So that's going to happen in the spring cohort. We're hoping to select about 10 students from that 20-person cohort in the fall to move on to the spring and provide them a scholarship, a small scholarship to incentivize them to do this all in one year. And then ultimately, we think that those students are going to be highly trained and highly valuable to the community. So we want to then go place some of those students out there into the community and have them support entrepreneurial support organizations that already exist in our community and that are already supporting underserved communities. So to incentivize this, we're going to give them a little bit of a stipend because we think they're going to be highly marketable students at this point, and they're going to have a lot of options for internships. So we're going to give them a stipend and also create sort of a cohort model that gets them together. They'll be placed in individual organizations all over the city, but we want them to get together once a week to talk about struggles they've seen, opportunities they've seen, ways they can get their organizations to work together or to build out their own networks. So we think through this summer internship, we think this third piece, this is really where we start to scale that impact. So we worked with a small number of ventures through fall and spring, and this is an opportunity to scale that out and work with larger communities and larger numbers of entrepreneurs. So that's the program we're developing, and then I'll turn it back over to Jeff.
Thank you. Just in the interest of time, thank you for that. Very highly engaging kind of a program that I'm sure some of our participants will want to ask questions on. But let me get to our third presenter for today, another very close, good friend of mine, thought leader in the field, someone I like to emulate when I visit their campus. Let me introduce our audience to Dr. Ted Zoller. Ted is the executive director of the University of North Carolina, of the Entrepreneurship Center at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, in the Keenan Flagler, I'm sorry, Ted, School of Business. He is the T.W. Lewis Distinguished Clinical Scholar and Professor. Ted is also a past president of USASB and a senior fellow at the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation. So Ted, you come with a lot of credentials and a lot of heart. So we're anxious to hear about your apprentice program.
I've learned everything that I know from the people on this call. As a matter of fact, I've been very, I guess, fortunate and blessed to know Rebecca and know Alex and know Jeff, all leaders. I'm looking forward to getting to know you, Ben. I was thinking, what could I offer to this group that might help you think through your own programs? And I wanted to outline what I would call 3 myths that I'm looking to debunk in programs we've built at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Very obsessed by the idea of entrepreneurial leadership. And this is kind of the secret sauce of, ultimately business transformation and forward-thinking business leaders. The first myth that a lot of people think that, universities have a pretty limited role in developing and supporting entrepreneurs over their lifetime. but particularly in the US, there's a major affiliation with alma mater, and we wanted to start to look at the framework of entrepreneurial training as a lifelong type of experience, as opposed to just what would be limited to a 4-year baccalaureate degree or a 2 to 5 year graduate experience. We wanted it to be a lifelong process. So we started thinking about it, and we were thinking, what are the characteristics that we would want to instill in a lifelong type of orientation? And we actually polled all of the entrepreneurs who are our alumni and asked them to identify the characteristics associated with entrepreneurship, and you can see all of them here. But then we boiled them down to the top 5. You know, it's interesting. Number 1 is persistence. Number 2 is taking risk. Number is drive. Number 4 is resilience, and number 5 is passion. These are all words we use every day. It just came out in the data. And then we asked them, what experiences would you want to have in order to prepare yourself for entrepreneurship? You can see the biggest one by far is failure. I learned more from failure than success. Obviously, knowledge of a being able to deal with hardship, the experience of working in a startup, networking, and then the opportunity to learn something and pioneering a new field. And then in terms of skills and preparation, what are the skills we need to impart in our students? These are the answers from the survey. And then they boil down to 4 large ones: sales, leadership, business development, and identifying market opportunity. And all of us are teaching, you know, for instance, opportunity recognition, things of that nature. Many of us are teaching go-to-market, marketing, sales, and business development. But leadership left outside of the room when we talk about entrepreneurship. And I think many of the programs that you just heard from, including ours, is focusing on leadership. So we built this course that I'm kind of proud of called the Entrepreneurs Lab. And we are actually using it as a tool to help identify the top 100 students at Carolina, both graduate and undergraduate, who are self-declared entrepreneurs to prepare them for the long haul and ordain potentially some early big breaks. By studying core lessons of entrepreneurial leadership and then engaging with serial entrepreneurs who demonstrate that, and then planning their own career path based on those lessons. So there are 3 themes of the course. I'm not going to get into great detail, but we drive repetitions around thought leadership, critical thinking, making sure to have a more pragmatic view of entrepreneurship. We have a theme around grand challenges where we apply really the big problems that are going to be facing as an entrepreneur. And then I've got a 3rd phase, which is a self-evaluation phase I call the entrepreneur's genome. We bring in a very diverse set of leaders, authors and practicing entrepreneurs, many of them relatable to our own folks. So the average age of the class would be somewhere between, well, I'll give you the 2 note, it would be from roughly 21 to 38. But I would say the average is probably 26, 27. We wanted to make sure they're relatable, but we also want to make sure that they also have the best practice of entrepreneurship in the field. And we also wanted to strive for diversity from all forms, including cognitive diversity. We also have introduced to the students and asked a set of authors to come to campus every year, and we change these books. It's a great way for us to engage with the thought leaders, many of the authors who are really moving the needle in terms of entrepreneurship, and they come and actually present their work. The second is students transition immediately after college to entrepreneurship. And the reason we built this Entrepreneurs Lab and then our apprenticeship is we want to be there when that moment occurs. And the research is showing that the first entrepreneurial moment is sometimes well after their undergraduate experience. So oftentimes it's happening well after they've graduated from our program. And what we found in doing a research study was that, you know, the startup periods for entrepreneurs is actually getting shorter. Gen X's and boomers would be beyond 12 years after baccalaureate attainment. Gen Ys are about 6 years after baccalaureate attainment. And it's showing that Gen Zs are about 5 years after baccalaureate attainment when they actually have their first activity. But still, we're missing the key moment where most, on average, students transition to entrepreneurship. So I wanted to solve for that, looking at this generational change, and we're building a lifelong learning model where we're going to be identifying and working with our graduates throughout their experience as an entrepreneur. The third myth I'd want to share with you career path. And this is some of the most important work I think we're doing with the Entrepreneurs Lab. You know, the old idea of a career path or ladder being much more of a linear, you know, the idea of employment for life, security, blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns on its head with entrepreneurship. It's actually more of a roller coaster, looks like a messy type of process. Sometimes it's very anecdotal. And in fact, I measured the career paths of entrepreneurs and see no pattern whatsoever. So these are actual career paths. And I'll give you an example. This is a particular entrepreneur that was a 3-time founder. I call that the tachycardia. It's almost like you have a heart attack moment. I guess that's true for most people who've been entrepreneurs. The truth is, entrepreneurial breakouts are much more like a roller coaster than they are than a more traditional, predictable career path where you can expect people to come in and do career services. So we try to prepare people for that, and it's based on that entrepreneurial event wherever it will occur in the career. We actually have had a number of entrepreneurs come in, and we actually look at their career path, and this is some research I'm doing now, looking at their big breakouts when they surged, there's big setbacks when they failed, and their entrepreneurial moments, the entrepreneurial events in their lives. And the students actually engage with these entrepreneurs, and then they actually are exposed to some of the key issues and the thought leaders that come. So we built on top of this Entrepreneurs Lab, the Adams Apprenticeship, and we use the apprenticeship as a way to allow the students to manage their careers in the same way we might be teaching them to manage a startup, and prepare them for those moments, the requisite competencies, characteristics, skills, and experiences to make that happen. So the idea is to focus on the entrepreneur as a leader, not on the venture. We certainly do all the venturing work and expansion work, but our work is on building an entrepreneurial leader and making a discrete decision to differentiate entrepreneurial leadership from what is taught in traditional organizational theory and management. So the apprenticeship follows the students for 10 years after graduation, and it's a lifelong network with experiential components, including this class, an advisor network where they create their own board while they're at the school, and then direct exposure to entrepreneurs in the international network at UNC. So the idea is to help our students identify their entrepreneurial advantage, what they're passionate about, what the world needs, and what they're great at. So the students have put it to work, and they've actually broken out early. Whitney Narcisse left our MBA program 1 year, finished her MBA as an online student with UNC because she had an opportunity to become a venture capitalist much earlier than she thought. Alon Glansman was heading to a pharmaceutical career when he came, left as a founder. So you never know when these things are going to happen. So I'll stop there, but I just wanted to give you a kind of a sense of 3 big myths and how we solved it through a lifelong learning model around entrepreneurial leadership. And I'll leave these slides out on Wahova so y'all can consume them.
Okay, thank you so much, all 3 of you. I hope our audience participants can see why I asked these 3 to be on a panel together. I mean, because they are truly developing next generation programming in entrepreneurship education. We have less than 20 minutes left in this session, so I'm going to take a quick peek to see who's asking some questions here that I can raise. Feel free to do so, but in the meantime, until some questions start coming in, let me come back to Rebecca. In your program, how do you differentiate the application? Someone's applying to the University of Tampa Graduate School, they have to fill out an application. Are you saying that once they get into UT, they have to fill out a separate application with an applicant video to get into this specialized program? How does that work?
Sure, Alex, and I'll answer that. But before I do, I saw a couple of questions in chat that I also wanted to address very quickly, and it's related to what you said. A couple of people were asking me about the profile of our students. So interestingly, our student profile is very diverse. We have students from 21 to 66. And we've had a number of people who are on what I would call encore careers, second careers. I'll give you one example, which was really interesting. He was 66. He's been the oldest that's been in our program. And he actually sold his company and came back to get a degree in entrepreneurship. And you wouldn't think that he'd sold his company, which is airport stores, to Host International. So very successful, made a bunch of money. But he wanted to, he was trained as a CFO. And so what's been really amazing for him is he's used this degree to actually get more involved in investing in other startups. So we've had other CEOs, former military, we have a big military base here. So we have all kinds of ages. We have a lot of diversity too, probably 40% of our program is not from the US. And for example, my last cohort had 25 students, 14 were from outside the US, and they were from 12 different countries. So quite a diverse group. Yes, Alex, to your question, they have to apply to graduate school at the university. In addition to all the requirements, they have to create and submit a video, and we watch the video. There's a team of us, so it's kind of like an interview process, but the video is really cool because it requires them to use technology and do something to get our attention. And their goal is to let us know a little bit more about who they are and why they want to do this.
Well, that sounds fantastic. And I'm sure many participants here are going to want to engage with you further on that topic. Jeff, can you speak just for a few minutes about how you created this consulting certificate aspect of the program, and can that be something that can be migrated to other schools?
Well, it's developed by the SBDC, Missouri, State of Missouri Small Business Development Center. And so they offer this now. And Ben, feel free to jump in. One of the things they noticed was they don't have enough business consultants for the entrepreneurial community and for the small business community in Kansas, the greater Kansas City area. And so they were really excited about the opportunity to get a hold of our students and have them participate in a sponsored way. The other thing is now it's not just about degree, it's about layered credentials. And the value add is now our students leave with a degree, whether it's some area of business or entrepreneurship, but they also have this business consulting certificate. So they could be an internal consultant or an external consultant. Ben, I'll let you chime in too.
Yeah, Alex, I think that's a great question. Actually, we've been working with our local chapter of the SBDC, but as we started talking about the certification, that's something that's provided by the Missouri level, the state level. So as they rounded up the channels, there became a lot of interest from the Missouri SBDC to say, how can we expand this across Missouri to the other universities? So it's definitely a model that they're looking at to see how well it works and whether we can expand it to other campuses. We've got 3 other campuses in the system that we'll start with, but even outside of that, we're going to see what it looks like for sure.
Well, with 120 participants, in this particular session, you might be getting some requests on how to do it outside of the state of Missouri.
I do want to acknowledge that other states' SBDC operations have similar consulting certification types of arrangements. They're all a little bit different. I know I'm familiar with Indiana and the state of Kansas, but most state operations do some level of this kind of training. But bringing it down to the college students and leveraging it across a program of a year is what we're trying to do.
All right. Boy, there are a lot of questions coming in, but I do want to throw one question out to Ted. You make such effective use of visualization data. Could you tell us what you're using for that? But then more importantly, you draw phenomenal and insightful conclusions or insights from looking at the data visually. Could you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, so I'm one of my main researches in social network theory. So I'm used to graph databases and showing big data and complex systems in visualization form. If you don't know Canva, that's a tool you should pick up. It's a
Spell
wonderful
that, please.
Canva, C-A-N-V-A.
Okay.
You can tell the difference between a Canva presentation and a PowerPoint presentation because it's really amenable to those of us who are academics. We can actually do more scientific visualization with it, and it's a lot cleaner, and you can do a lot more digital products with it as well. So if you have a media site, you can leverage it for infographics and things of that nature. There's so many tools out there, but I think the key to it is to find the counter narrative. A lot of us have built our programs based on kind of conventional wisdom that has not been validated. And I think what's true among Jeff and Rebecca, and I think myself, and I know Alex, we all have looked at the underlying data before we built the program and made sure that we're not doing any malpractice. So, I'd highly recommend using and exploiting survey-based tools to try to collect information on phenomena that you're trying to teach to, and then engage the students. One of the things about Entrepreneurs Lab is the first 3 years of it was a research project, and now it's a self-perpetuating machine. So I used it for the first 3 years and asked the students if they wanted to do a research project as a class. Did it, and the thesis was, is there a difference between entrepreneurial leadership and what's taught in a typical leadership program? And let me tell you, it was yes.
Excellent. We've got about 9 minutes left in the session, so I do want to get to some Q&A from the audience. I'm seeing something from our good friend Adnan Malawi in France, who's dialing in for this. He says, hey, Alex, could you ask Jeff and Ben about their opinion on how to manage student entrepreneurs with this social and physical distance, and also how to create motivation when they are at home? So how did your model work in an online kind of an environment? Good question, Adnan.
We offer a program right now called Entrepreneurship Scholars, and it's a program where we have university students and community students in a venture acceleration semester-long program. So what happened, we had to move it all online. Luckily, we had an eScholars online platform that we use for other things. And the ventures have been working on their ventures because they're competing in our Rainier Venture Creation Challenge, which went virtual May 1st. So we kept them engaged by letting them target that competition where they can earn some significant prize money. This semester, it's a jump ball. The students are somewhat flexible while they're anxious of going online and trying to get through it. The unique challenge will be next fall, launching this new integrative program and also continuing our other venture development programs if we're still doing it in a virtual way. The social distancing, where you have to stay 6 feet away, that is something the students have to work out in terms of launching their venture. It's a strange time to launch a venture until the coronavirus is resolved. I've thought about that, but really haven't reached any definitive conclusions. I open it up to Ben and the rest of our distinguished panel to chime in on that too.
I want you to think about that, but we do have some other questions. Here's one from Regina Frank that I think applies to all three of your efforts. She says, she thanks everybody for sharing your unique program ideas. And this is to all three of you. Could you give us an indication of how many hours it has taken you to set up the first iteration of such new programs, and then how long it took you to revise, update the curricular? Could you kind of talk about that in terms of the prep and the ideation, and then throwing it out there and seeing if it works or not? So this is all three of you. Rebecca, how would you answer that?
Well, Alex, couple of things. It takes, for me, I kind of look at it, it's been a it's been almost a lifetime, really, of collecting data. So I didn't obviously include all of that. So it's something that, you know, you learn a lot over time. So one of my mentors told me very early on, don't try to look like the, you know, established programs that have been out there. When I first started, don't try to be what somebody's been building for 10 years right away. So it takes time. I'll just say regarding this particular program, a couple of things. Number one, it took us 4 years from the time we first started putting down ideas on paper to launch it. And, you know, other programs I've built have been a lot quicker, but this one, for a variety of reasons, took a longer time. And I'm glad we did, because I think it paid off. I don't think we have stopped modifying it yet. I'll give you one example of a problem we've run into. I wanted to mention this because other people might be thinking about an 11 or 12-month master's program. And one of the challenges for your international students, many of them want to stay longer. So they want to be here more than 1 year. And so we've adapted our program. I mentioned our Spartan Accelerator. That's where students are actually, you know, they're enrolled students, but they're working on businesses. So we're looking at a lot of different ways for our international students to be able to be a part of their cohort and to stay longer than 12 months. So that's one of the kind of unintended consequences and unexpected things. We're continually modifying it and improving it. So.
Rebecca, looking at that background behind you, I wonder why your international students desire to stay longer.
Well, yeah. Although now that we're online, it's a whole different ballgame for us. So, but,
all right,
yeah.
we've got 4 minutes left. Let's see, Rebecca, how would you weigh in on that?
Yeah, I just want to mention real quick, I think it's a risk to introduce a class in the way that we're talking about, but it's a risk taking. If you're an assistant professor, maybe be careful. But if you're a more senior person, you know, it's worth the chance. It probably was a prep and a half of effort on my part, because I had to engage the students, work with the students, continuously survey, do outside research, recreate the class. And I have iterated the class 3 times in order to move it from a research to a program-based strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely worth it. And it is risky because, you know, you might get it wrong the first time, and the data will tell you where to go.
Alex, I'll jump in too. And Ben can give you the number of hours to actually design all the parts, but it takes at least a year. We have to get curriculum approved. This time, we're using current curriculum that's already been approved. The foundation of this, or the secret sauce, is the integration across the platform of the program, and how we're connecting students to community, to our 2 sister organizations, and bringing all that together. Ben, you want to give an estimate of how many hours you put in on this over the last year?
It's been a lot, but keep in mind, I think the way that Jeff introduced it is exactly right. Is we kind of looked at the pieces that we already had and said, how do we start utilizing some things that are already out there? So we've definitely leveraged work that's been done before to help us implement this. That being said, I mean, it's you know, getting something like this started is you know, a quarter of my time right now. So it takes a lot, for sure.
So
the one thing I've learned from my mentors, that some of them on this Zoom session, and others like Don Carreco at Indiana, and other folks, is it's not just one piece. It's how you put all the pieces together that really matter when you go to do this. And I learned, and I get that emphasized to me more and more every year.
Jeff, I think the work that you're doing in the underserved communities is phenomenal. And to our audience, tomorrow afternoon, Dr. Michael Morris will be expanding on that topic of applying entrepreneurship in underserved communities, and followed by a panel of several others who are also working on projects in their own communities, focusing on the underserved area. I wish we could continue this for another hour. I've got, there's a ton of questions coming in and so forth, but for our conference participants, you've just heard from the best of the best in terms of what they're doing at their programs and how we learn from each other by interacting. And when you have the opportunity, visit these 3 campuses to gain some amazing, amazing insights. Rebecca, Jeff, Ted, our session time has lapsed, but I certainly look forward to a lot more opportunities for us to develop great programs around the world. With your thought leadership, the future is bright. So thank you very much for the session. And for our conference participants, we'll start 2 more sessions in about 10 minutes. So thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Leadership.
Nice to see
Yeah.
everybody. Stay safe
Yeah.
and well.
Yes.
Thank you for
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for joining today. We're going to take a couple of minutes off, and we're going to start the next session here. But we're going to be at Huva, where everybody is sending their comments. Please make sure you put your thumbs up there and ask some more questions so we can collect them. Thank you, and have a safe day. Thank you, everybody.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you.